by the presiding officer. And there should be no smoking inside the parliamentary building. It's almost time to go to the main event, but before that, let's get the answer to the trivia question. We asked, true or false? Under Chapter 2 of the Jamaican Constitution, persons born in Jamaica and persons born outside of Jamaica of Jamaican parents have an automatic right to Jamaican citizenship. It's true. It says so in the Jamaican Nationality Act. You are able to work without a work permit under this act, vote in general and local government elections, receive social benefits, and get access to government programs, duty-free allowance from customs and at the airport. Every country has their own laws on whether or not a person can hold citizenship in 2 or more countries. Jamaica accepts dual nationals. Persons interested in becoming citizens of Jamaica should first check to see if their country allows for dual nationality. Now, there are several categories of citizenship. These include citizenship in case of doubt, citizenship by descent, citizenship by marriage, registration of Commonwealth nationals, and naturalization. You can learn so much more about this by contacting the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA. Now over to the proceedings.
Jamaica is on the move with a smarter and cleaner transportation. The government is enhancing the JUTC fleet with 100 new CNG buses with 10 specially outfitted for the disabled. Running on compressed natural gas, these buses reduce emissions while offering advanced safety features and Wi-Fi. Jamaica is driving in comfort towards a sustainable future.
Send the something and come back. To sender.
Miracles await and miracles abound. Tune in every Sunday at 7 a.m. for your share of the Miracle Revival Hour with Reverend Dr. Blair. Come for the word, stay for the worship. Right here on PBCJ.
Miracle worker, work one for me.
Peace begins with us. Every act of kindness, every step towards understanding brings us closer to a brighter tomorrow. Let's choose unity, compassion, and hope. Together, we can build a future where peace reigns.
Brighter tomorrow starting today.
What is the role of a backbencher in government? I'm glad you asked. They're members of parliament who are not appointed to cabinet. So they sit in the back of the legislature and they apply pressure. They examine what government legislates, participate in parliament debates, raise issues and advocate and question chamber when things don't look straight. Backbenchers represent the constituents in parliament. Backbenchers oversee the interests of citizens, you and me. But how can they be agents of government accountability after them no hold a portfolio? And how can they facilitate government transparency? And the next thing, them on a front bencher. So how them affect me? You see, a lot of work is in committees. So these portfolio-free MPs with less dire responsibilities are more accessible to you and me. So they help with policy, but it helps if we engage them, you see. So they're not just in the back benches, but on the ground, in the trenches. Though in the back of Parliament, we're at the front of their cause. So pause. Find your backbencher at jampja.org.
Do your part to prevent mosquito breeding. Mosquitoes will breed in any container that holds water.
Tightly cover water storage containers such as drums, barrels, buckets, and tanks. If this cannot be done, pour cooking oil on the water surface. Punch holes in all tins, plastics, and beverage boxes to prevent the collection of water before disposal. Cover all tires or fill with dirt to prevent water collection. Scrub all vases once per week to remove mosquito eggs. Use mosquito repellents to protect yourself from mosquito bites. Dispose of garbage properly by placing in plastic bags and securing properly to prevent water collection.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Jamaica, I can help you protect our citizens.
Jamaica Eye will play a part in increasing your public safety.
Jamaica Eye is part of an island-wide network of camera surveillance systems designed to increase the safety of you, our citizens. If you have a camera system outside your home or office facing a public space, log on to jamaicaeye.gov.jm today. Jamaica Eye, we're all connected. The Ministry of National Security, creating a safer and prosperous Jamaica.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. To fight crime and violence in your country, your government has invested over $9.7 billion into national security systems. This includes the construction and renovation of dozens of police stations, the acquisition of critical security equipment such as patrol vessels and police vehicles, the recruitment and training of more police officers, and the build-out of the Jamaica Defense Force. Your government is investing in your safety. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Jamaica is on the move with smarter and cleaner transportation. The government is enhancing the JUTC fleet with 100 new CNG buses with 10 specially outfitted for the disabled. Running on compressed natural gas, these buses reduce emissions while offering advanced safety features and Wi-Fi. Jamaica is driving in comfort towards a sustainable future.
So who keeps our taxpayer money in check? Well, the PAC and PAAC help watch over the country's budget. And one might sound like it just have an extra A, but they're way different. Here's how. The PAAC and PAC are two committees that watch the money. The Public Accounts Committee reviews government projects after them close. They do a post-audit check to see what problems arose with the costs and call officials to explain decisions that cause budget mismanagement. And then they recommend corrective action. So the problem will happen from when, not happen again. But what about the money we are spending right now? The PAAC. That's how Public Administration and Appropriations Committee pretty much means your money will protect as it happens, we check. While projects go on, things are accurate. As government spend the nation's budget, PAAC reviews it. They examine proposals and summon officials to find problems before them don't use it. So the PAC and PAAC are two parliamentary committees that watch over the country's wallet to protect the budget and keep it in check. And you can get involved. Just visit jampja.org.
Send the something and come back. Back to sender. God, I thank you.
Miracles await and miracles abound. Tune in every Sunday at 7 a.m. for your share of the Miracle Revival Hour with Reverend Dr. Blair. Come for the word, stay for the worship, right here on PBCJ.
Miracle worker, work one for me.
Are you an entrepreneur producing an excellent Jamaican product or service? Did you know you can earn hard currency and more significant returns by exporting? Contact the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce to help propel your business along the export lane.
Everything you can produce, the Jamaicans overseas want it.
We're not going to get rich by just bringing down the debt. We're going to get rich by exporting a lot more. So grow exports, create job opportunities, drive economic growth through exports to make Jamaica a richer and much more prosperous country.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. Your government is empowering you through education, training, and development. That is why we have removed all fees for every Jamaican accessing training through the Heart NSTA Trust. So, whatever you desire training in, food and hospitality, beauty and cosmetology, housekeeping and hotel management, welding, carpentry, masonry, or any of the dozens of programs Heart offers, you can enroll completely free and change your life. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The following is brought to you by MOCA, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency with kind support of NIA and USAID.
Criminal minds think they are cunning. The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency have them running. Your friend a show come take time running. Are we ready for the ops? Drive up on your block, step out now your block, cyber take about your laptop. Pull up every lock, no evidence to drop. We put it in a cuffs and now we have the underground. In this system you better look out for. When you move corrupt, better look out for. They say you get wet, look out for. Look out for, look out for. From this system you better look out for. When you move corrupt, better look out for. Please say you get wet, look out for. Look out for, look out for.
The proceeding was brought to you by MOCA, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency with the kind support of NIA and USAID.
MOCA, MOCA.
Each year, the Jamaican Parliament approves billions in tax dollars to buy goods and services for Jamaicans. Awarding contracts to private companies to provide public goods and services is called public procurement, and it is a major hotspot for corruption. Can citizens spot the red flags in public procurement and help the government protect our taxes? Yes, they can, and here are 6 to watch for. Direct contracting. When contracts are frequently awarded to one supplier without other companies competing to offer a better price and quality, we usually end up paying more and getting less. Contract splintering. Big projects need big money and higher level approvals. But if the contract is cut up into smaller ones, it won't need external approval from offices like the Public Procurement Commission or Cabinet. This makes it easier for contracts to avoid additional scrutiny. Timing of advertisements. Contracts advertised during distracting periods like the holidays can result in less competition and a really strong advantage for the favored company. Like Christmas time, work slows down and companies are less attentive to business opportunities. Emergency contracting. Claiming emergencies allows officials to legally bypass normal procurement rules, making it easier to award contracts to favored companies. Contract timing. Contracts awarded just before or after election can be payback for campaign support and not based on what Jamaicans really need. Collusion. And what if penalties are not enforced when work is poorly done? This could be a contractor and public official working together for private benefit. And if it is, this is collusion. These flags do not prove corruption, but they trigger questions that citizens must ask. So mind your business, Jamaica. Visit the JAMP Procurement Tracker to monitor government contracts. If you spot these flags, use our ATI tool to ask questions and demand accountability.
Peace begins with us. Every act of kindness, every step towards understanding brings us closer to a brighter tomorrow. Let's choose unity, compassion, and hope. Together, we can build a future where peace reigns.
Brighter tomorrow starting today.
Jamaica, let's spread the word around to let the world know that we are proud to be one republic. We on the road to republic. Well then, let's propel we nation, moving forward in a new direction. True independence, that's the projection. No more dependency, it's the best plan. Yes, we know what's best for us, cause we want we country prosperous. So make we just pull together as the general public, while on the road to Republic. Let's spread the word around to let the world know that we are proud to be one Republic. We on the road to Republic.
A message from the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
We on the road to Republic. We and the youth united against corruption, changing the world and the way we function. The youth united against corruption, changing the world and the way we function. You remember the youth, them are with future leaders, policy creators, decision makers. As if them are not just the cornerstone, but a crucial part to a better tomorrow. United against corruption, changing the world and the way we function. The youth united against corruption.
A message from the Integrity Commission.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. Jamaica is changing right before our very eyes. Across the island, billions are being invested into our road networks, from farm and community roads to major roads and highways. Dozens of communities across the length and breadth of Jamaica are receiving access to reliable potable water for the very first time. And thousands of Jamaicans have become homeowners thanks to the historic shifts in policies of the National Housing Trust, making it easier for Jamaicans to receive funding. Not to mention the record number of houses being built. Never dreamed you would own a home? No matter your circumstance, home ownership is possible for you, thanks to the government's new social housing program, specially designed to meet the needs of poor Jamaicans at no cost to them. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
How do bills become law in Jamaica? Laws are made to create order, to ensure our safety, and to protect our rights against abuses by other citizens, organizations, and even the government itself. A bill is a proposal for either a new law or for a change to an existing law. Jamaica's Parliament is responsible for making our laws, and that responsibility is shared between two houses. There are 21 parliamentarians appointed from both political parties to the upper house, also known as the Senate. And there are 63 members of parliament that we, the people, elect to the lower house, also known as the House of Representatives. To pass a law, there is a minimum of 6 stages required in each house. The process can begin in the upper house by a senator or in the lower house by your member of parliament. And their proposals for a new bill can certainly start with you, the citizen. Now, since the process often begins in the House of Representatives, let's start there. 1. The first stage begins with responsible for the bill, followed by the first reading of the bill by the clerk to the houses. This clerk is more like the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer for the Parliament. An announcement of the bill is published in the Gazette. This is a public newsletter that the government uses to inform the citizens of what the Parliament is doing on your behalf. 2. The second reading begins with a summary of the bill by the minister. The main reasons for the bill are discussed both by the government and opposition members to determine if Jamaicans would really be better off with the new law or changes to an existing law. A vote is taken by the House to determine if the bill will move to the committee stage. Sometimes before going to that stage, the minister responsible for the bill can recommend the use of a joint select committee. It's called joint as its members are taken from both the upper and lower house. To benefit from greater consultation, the committee is empowered to invite the public to share their views of the bill in writing or in person, and does so through radio, TV, and newspaper adverts. This Joint Select Committee submits its recommendations to the House of Representatives. The House debates this report, and a vote is taken to determine if the bill should go on to the committee stage, where it is examined by a committee of the whole House. Yes, that's the name. And that's what it is, a committee of all the members of Parliament that carefully examines each clause and makes improvements to ensure the bill will achieve its objectives. As chairman, the Speaker of the House monitors the process to make sure the rules of the House are obeyed and the process moves along smoothly.
reign, and princes decree justice, and from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding. We, thine unworthy servants, here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that, we having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the king, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity towards one another. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I just want to be the principal. That's why I'm going to do.
You may be seated.
The principal over there for themselves are the worst.
This Honorable House now resumes its sitting. As always, it's a great honor and pleasure to welcome you to the sitting of the Honorable House of Representatives for today, Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. As usual, we expect members will maintain the standards of this Honorable House in accordance with the standing orders as well as established practices and procedures. Today, we commence the sectoral debate for the financial year 2026-2027. I would like to make special mention and welcome to members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives from the Ministry of National Security, who are primarily seated to my right, Mrs. Beverly Manley Duncan, other invited guests, and those who are joining us on the various media platforms, particularly PBCJ live stream. Call of the roll.
Mr. Clark, Mr. Green, Dr. Holness, Dr. Chang, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Bartlett, Ms. Grange, Dr. Tufton, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Montague, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Charles Jr., Mr. Morgan, Ambassador Marks, Mr. Samuda, Dr. Wheatley, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Terry Long, Mr. Witter, Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert, Ms. Morrison, Ms. Lee, Mr. Donovan Williams, Mr. Main, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Delroy Williams, Ms. Hamilton, Mr. Sivright, Mr. Azan, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brownberg, Mr. Buchanan, Mr. Bunting, Ms. Burchell, Dr. Campbell, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Crawford, Ms. Daly, Dr. Dawes, Mr. Golding, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Hales, Mr. Hines, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Jess, Mrs. Malahoo Fort, Mrs. Miller Bennett, Mr. Morris, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Newell, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Ms. Perkis, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Dr. Russell, Ms. Shaw, Mr. Smith, Mr. Vaz, and Mr. Warmington. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, we could go through the agenda.
Statement by ministers, announcements.
Laid on the table of the House are the following: annual report and statements accounts of the Banana Board for the year ended December 31, 2023, and its related ministry paper number 22 of 2026, titled Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements of the Banana Board for the year 2023. And finally, the Bank of Jamaica's report on performance and main activities of the Bank of Jamaica Board of Directors for the financial year 2025, and the Bank of Jamaica's Monetary Policy Statement, August 2025 Quarterly Monetary Policy Report, and December 2025 Quarterly Monetary Policy Report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Bills brought from the Senate.
The following is a message from the President of the Senate. To the Honorable House of Representatives, I have the honor to advise the Honorable House of Representatives that on the 17th day of April 2026, a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Jury Act was passed in the Senate without amendment. Thomas Tavares Finson, President of the Senate.
Petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notices at the next meeting of the House. I will move the following motion. Whereas subsection 1G of section 41 of the Constitution of Jamaica requires a member of this Honorable House of Representatives to vacate his seat if any firm in which he is a partner or any company of which he is a director or manager becomes a party to any contract with the government of Jamaica for or on account of the public service, or if he becomes a partner in a firm or a director or manager of a company which is party to any such contract. And whereas the Member of Parliament for Manchester North West is a director of Awesome Party Rentals and a shareholder of ITGG Limited, and whereas Awesome Party Rentals may from time to time enter into contracts with the government of Jamaica and its affiliated agencies, and whereas the member has disclosed his interest in these entities, be it resolved that this motion be referred to the Ethics Committee of the House of Representatives for consideration and report. Madam Speaker, I beg to give further notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move on behalf of the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, be it resolved that this Honorable House of Representatives approve the plans and programs being pursued by the government in respect of ministries which were not included in the debate on the appropriation bill, and further approve the policy projections as announced for the financial year 2026-2027. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Thank you, House Leader. Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the House. Motion for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House. First obtained. Public business. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier today, and this is in relation to referring the matter to the Ethics Committee of the House of Representatives.
Question is that the standing orders be suspended to enable the minister to take the motion notice of which he gave earlier. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I now move that the motion, notice of which I gave earlier today, be approved.
Members, those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier today in relation to our debates regarding the appropriation bill in respect of ministries not included in the debate prior to that motion, the standing orders be suspended to enable me to take that motion.
Members, the question is that we suspend the standing orders to enable the minister to take the motion notice of which he gave earlier in respect of the sectoral debate. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, as we have indicated today, we will commence our sectoral debate. And I want to join with you to welcome representatives from the Diplomatic Corps and also representatives from the National Security Ministry, National Security and Peace. We will have our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, who will be followed by the Member of Parliament for Kingston East and Port Royal. And just to indicate, Madam Speaker, I would have spoken to the leader of opposition business, and I would have spoken to you in relation to the conduct of these debates. And we would have agreed that we are going to adhere to the time that is set for ministers and for opposition spokespersons. Just to indicate, we have agreed that for ministers, they will get 45 minutes plus an additional 15 minutes if needed to bring the total time for the presentation to be no more than 60 minutes. For opposition spokespersons, they will get 30 minutes and if needed, an additional 5 minutes to bring their total time for their presentation to be no more than 35 minutes. Outside of that, to start the debate, Madam Speaker, we will allow the opening presenters to have an additional 10 minutes just because they frame the context of the sectorial debate. So the opening and closing presentation. Outside of that, we ask the members to adhere to the time. So with that said, Madam Speaker, we are ready, and we ask you to invite the Minister of National Security and Peace, the MP for St. James North Western, to start our sectorial debates.
Members, before we welcome the Minister of National Security and Peace, in respect of extension of time being granted in the sectoral debate presentation, those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Let me introduce again and make welcome house the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, who will speak first. Minister of National Security and Peace. The Deputy Prime Minister is the Member of Parliament for St. James North Western. Let's make him welcome.
My colleagues, today I rise with gratitude and a deep sense of service for the 9th time in the sectoral debate and speaking on the mission today of the Ministry of National Security. Madam Speaker, peace has been introduced to the portfolio set of the Ministry of National Security and Peace, and this is due to the success of the agencies of the Ministry of National Security, but in particular the Jamaica Constabulary Force, for the major and dramatic reduction in criminal violence throughout the country. Each year in this House, I am reminded of the strength of the Jamaican people, even in the face of major challenges. The strength inspires me to give me hope and compels me to continue to work with purpose and resolve. In reminding us that our duty must always be anchored in service to the people, guided not by party colors, but by our shared responsibility to every Jamaican. We bear a solemn charge to act with courage, integrity, and purpose as we shape the future of our nation. The recent passage of Hurricane Melissa tested many of our communities. Homes were damaged, lives were disrupted, but the Jamaican people did not break. A recovery continues. We remain committed to ensuring that no community is left behind. I want to commend the men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Jamaica Defence Force, the Fire Brigade, and the wide members of the public service. They are not only guardians of public safety, they are the steady hand that our nation depends on in this most difficult time. In particular of this hurricane, many of them are out there, even their families themselves were under severe pressure. Their sacrifice speaks just not to duty, but to the deep and enduring commitment to the country. I want to acknowledge, of course, Madam Speaker, the leadership of the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Honis, who steady guidance continue to provide direction and confidence during times of great challenge and uncertainty. Madam Speaker, it is a fact that this Prime Minister has faced some of the most challenging times in the history of our country. We have had, we start with the economic issues, which was started in the previous government, but the fiscal challenges were faced, and it's one of the successes of the country at this point in time. COVID-19 pandemic, a 100-year pandemic that hit the world, but hit the country for the first time in 100 years. Well, it's a 100-year pandemic, major challenge to the entire country, damaging the very fabric of our society. Of course, we have had severe weather conditions, very last year, Melissa, and of course, in maintaining our democratic standards, we have had 2 general elections and a parish council election. And of course, we inherited a wave, an chronic epidemic of severe criminal activity, and we have had to deal with all of them. It is only, I have to commend our Prime Minister for his leadership. As we continue, Madam Speaker, I have noted my colleagues across there said, one of my good friends from South Manchester spoke of divine intervention. I don't think he understood that it was already decided. He got the wrong intervention. Somewhere in Spanish Town was a young man who independed to occupy the seat of authority as Prime Minister. That was a divine intervention. One peer. It is remarkable that we have one Prime Minister through this remarkable stage in our history, with all the crises we have had. I want to thank my colleagues in the Cabinet for their continued partnership and collaboration, and extend special appreciation to my Minister of State, Hon. Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn. An Olympian who has run the race for the Jamaica on the world stage and continue that journey in service to our country. Thank you. I want to thank her. She brings that spirit of determination to the ministry, carrying out her responsibilities with quiet strength, unwavering commitment, and a deep sense of national duty. I want to recognize a dedicated team within the ministry, led by Permanent Secretary Ambassador Alistair Stonewall, including technical and administrative staff. They work tirelessly to deliver on our mandate. It is indeed a privilege to work alongside our national security departments and agencies, which include the Jamaica Constabulary Force already referred to, led by our Commissioner, Dr. Kevin Blake, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency that has quietly invaded that area and is having some significant success both in the public and private sector in dealing with corruption. The Passport Immigration and Citizenship Agency, a quiet agency, tend to be below the radar, but a very important part of our border security and doing an excellent job both in security and allowing our visitor experience to be improved. we are working hard at taking it to another level. The Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine, which will be approved later again, one of the finest in this region. The Firearm Licensing Authority, the Department of Correctional Services, the police, and my minister has particular responsibility for it. Although she's the lady. The Police Civilian Oversight Authority and the Private Security Regulatory Authority. I commend their leadership and staff for their unwavering commitment to building a safer Jamaica. I want to express my deepest gratitude to my wife and children for their continued support. I want to thank my medical team for the exceptional care and attention, and the members of the public for their prayers, well wishes during my recent medical events. But I want to express my gratitude to my colleagues in the Honorable House on both sides. Your encouragement, your understanding never wavered. And even in my absence, I got the messages where I couldn't answer the telephone directly. My daughter did all of that for me. She was a champion in the time. I didn't have the opportunity to speak with each of you individually, but your goodwill and your prayers and expression of getting well better was deeply felt and sincerely appreciated on both sides of the house. I thank you both. I want to thank the people of my constituency for their trust and confidence. Their support continue to guide my service. I have to recognize, should have recognized the audience, but I have at a later stage the diplomats who are here and other members of the Ministry of Staff who joined me. And of course, I should also add a recognition on this very manly, and it's honest and manly Duncan, who is here more for the house leader on that side, the opposition leader. But we recognize her as one of our outstanding public servants of our time. Could not have her here and don't recognize you, Bev. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister has outlined a clear vision for Jamaica's future, grounded in resilience, through unity and progress. That's part of what I have to do all the time. Today I rise to build on that vision. I will outline how we are strengthening peace, enhancing safety, and driving transformation across our communities. Prior to the year of Andrew Holness-led administration took office in 2016, Jamaica was on an upward trajectory of escalating gang activity and violent crime. These trends continued into 2017, when the country recorded one of the highest homicide rates, 60 per 100,000, with 1,647 murders. This level of violence far exceeds the capacity of the normal policing activity in the country. And in public trust in the police and the government was low. And the simple dream of citizens sleeping with their doors open at night was a far from reach and an admirable aspiration only. When we came into office, many communities were under the grip of gangs defined by violence, intimidation, and gunmanship. But then, under the leadership of Dr. Andrew Holness, we made a decision. We made a sober decision. We decided that Jamaica would not surrender to criminality. We made it clear that gangs would not operate freely or comfortable in this country, and that crime would carry consequences, swift and certain consequences. Despite certain skepticism and constant pressure, we remained focused, locked in, and stayed the course. We committed to doing the difficult work required to restore order and rebuild society. This is the foundation of our legacy, Madam Speaker, and today we are building on that foundation. Madam Speaker, since 2016, we have made sustained and unprecedented investment in national security. Yes. On the average, we have committed approximately 10 billion annually in capital expenditure into capital. Despite the various economic shocks that we have had to confront over the period, we have remained disciplined and unwavering in that policy direction. This level of investment is far greater than in the previous period in our history, and reflects a deliberate strategy to build a modern, capable, and responsive security architecture. The security capital expenditure can be seen on display, and it is obvious what happened after 2016 and the remarkable investment to make Jamaica safe and to protect and serve our people. We'll comment on some of the major economic implications for that at a later stage. In fact, my colleague to my right and my friend in St. James will in fact make him a stronger comment, as it has aided his own progress, who has worked hard to bring the visa industry up to a certain level. I want to commend the administrative leadership of the Central Ministry. We refer to the Permanent Secretary team, led by the Permanent Secretary and the Chief Technical Directors, for the work behind the scenes to help facilitate this level of capital expenditure. Madam Speaker, when an institution moves on average expenditure under $3 billion per year to it now spends up to $20 billion in 1 year, it reflects a dramatic movement. The ministry is able to spend that quantum of funds over the year with a high degree of integrity and efficiency. Projects are not stalled in procurement process. Projects satisfying the public investment appraisal requirements and not in receipt of any adverse trace from the Auditor General reflects hardworking, competent professionals in the public service who deserve to serve. In fact, Madam Speaker, I said to them recently, that's like moving a staff from a sidewalk shop into a large supermarket, and they're able to sustain the management and success of the business in an outstanding manner. This level of capital expenditure is what will help to ensure the sustainability of the results, but not only the level of capital expenditure, but the competence and ability of the staff, the central staff, the corporate services to continue working effectively within the legal framework we operate. We have significantly strengthened the capacity of the Jamaica Constable Force in particular. We strengthened capacity, presence, and leadership. Since 2018, and this is critical because the police force is the front line of law enforcement. They are the primary law enforcement agency. We have many agencies I've referred to before, and each play a significant and important role in restoring public order, bringing peace to our communities, but the JCF is on the front line. They lead it. Since 2018, we have recruited and trained approximately 7,100 police officers. There was many talk of all kind of policing deployment, proximity policing, more police here, more there, but there was no attempt to expand the force to a level where they could manage the tasks they were given. We recruited, we trained, and we introduced new training programs. This expansion has allowed for a more effective deployment, establishment of specialized units like the operational supporting teams, the special operation teams, increased presence in communities, and the advancement of proximity policing. Many will tell you sometimes you're driving to and from Montego Bay, you pass police every parish you go. Every major intersection, a reflection of presence. We have strengthened leadership and supervision in the force, and this is crucial, Madam Speaker, to ensure sustainability and quality. Since 2024, some 2,250 police officers, including 250 gazetted ranks, have been promoted to fill critical vacancies, support our policy to expand, professionalize the officer corps of the police force. In addition, we have invested heavily in mobility and operational readiness. We have procured just over 2,000 motor vehicles to ensure and maintain a steady fleet, cost of $7.5 billion. This increased capacity, Madam Speaker, has enabled the JCF to significantly strengthen its various policing activities, but in particular, the use of what they call national coordinating roadblocks. In all divisions, the police have provided operational tools that disrupted criminality heavily. It's also contributed significantly to reduce road fatalities. It is hard work. There are national roadblocks, I was told, and we'll come back to it. In this quarter, they were doing over 4,000 national coordinated roadblocks across the island. What the process is that every division, all 19 across the parish, are required to do 2 major roadblocks at the critical points of intersection. This is what reduces criminal movement, the movement of firearms across the island. When they start out, we used to pick up the firearms like they were falling off the tree. We interrupt the critical cars moving, and criminals don't move out when they know police on the road. It has, in fact, helped to impact all the work. There's some more work to be done. We are working collaboratively with the Ministry of Transport to identify that work. But the increased mobility of the police has been a major contribution to the effect of the police. The establishment of the operational support teams and the area fugitive operation teams. Of course, Madam Speaker, by virtue of accident sometime and other reasons, sometimes the small station may run out of a vehicle. And the Commission made it very clear, you know, if you crash a vehicle, you're not going to get one until the next set come. You're not going to pull it. But more critically, the deployment of the policemen in the areas division has changed dramatically, and it is not absolutely critical to necessarily have always a vehicle at a particular station. Because the operational supporting teams and the area fugitive operation teams are deployed from divisional headquarters to go to critical areas in the parish. They know where the intelligence tells them where the gangs are, where the troublemakers are, who is likely to cause conflict. The Community Security Safety Branch know when their call is starting, and the policemen are deployed in those areas to supplement knowledge. So, in fact, the priority has to be to get the operational supporting teams in the critical areas, and that's why we continue to have a decline in homicides. But yes, we are seeking to maintain our fleet level where all the states will have at least one vehicle, but we have to ensure those special teams are operational. What we call the kinetic teams. They must be in the critical areas. So when problems start in land settlement, MP from Manchester, we put people there, and we're going to cut the rate of homicide. Madam Speaker, we are making targeted strategic investment to build a modern police force driven by technology, powered by data, and enhanced, anchored in accountability. Among all agencies of government, the JSF has demonstrated some of the most significant progress in modernizing its processes and operations. We continue to digitize across the They have a whole team digitizing records from 2013. And by the end of this financial year, all our police stations will have their front desk with computers, and the big books will begin to grow. It's an enormous task, but they're proceeding. We're making targeted strategic investment we are transforming traffic enforcement through digitized technology. But now when the policeman stops it, it's not a matter of talking to him, pull him ticket. We'll provide an additional 1,500 e-ticketing devices here. Bring a total to 10,000 devices. That will mean total replacement of hard copy activities and place the JSF closer to full transition to digital ticketing. Indeed, the police was maybe the most advanced agency in terms of digitization of its policies to make it more efficient, and we are beginning to see the results. We had to, of course, introduce a ticket information management system, because one that was acquired some time ago was not only dated but impossible to use. And in the process, we have contributed significant activity on the road, because the national coordinated roadblocks have seen this quarter one of the lowest in terms of fatal accidents on the road. We are strengthening the Jamaica Eye program, National CCTV Surveillance Network. We are expanding the cameras. We are looking at a target of 3,000 cameras over time. But we are not quite there. We will be acquiring additional one this year, and we will complete that process by the 28th budget year. We have acquired body-worn cameras, and they have been deployed, but deployment is decided by the Commissioner of Police. Body-worn cameras are part of modern police equipment, and the only person who have the authority and the professional capacity to instruct where they should go is the Commissioner of Police as team. No civil society organization can tell us where to put it. That was what was damaging the police for years. Everybody like cowboy policing and downmanship, and then tell police how to go police. Cameras are good for transparency and accountability, and we will continue to acquire. We have another 1,000 order, and the police will provide the equipment. Well, let me make it plain. The police force, my job is oversight and providing equipment. Society holds them accountable. They do policing, and we have an excellent commissioner of police. You know that. Modern policing, Madam Speaker, is grounded in science. We have made the investment to upgrade and expand our forensic capabilities. It includes the opening of one of the finest forensic pathology autopsy suite down in Kingston, near the KPH. You know, when we did it, Madam Speaker, somebody said it looks so good. They want to go there. So I remind them, you go there when you're dead. He said his friend tell him, say, well, go to KPH and we'll send you over there fast. But he was concerned. That forensic pathology autopsy suite is excellent. We expect our first corpse in June, and from then on we expect to reduce the weeks and months, you know, wait for autopsy to less than to more than like 10 days. We have also, and Speaker, the modern police must also be supported by modern infrastructure. The ministry has spearheaded the project Rebuild, Overhaul and Construct initiative, systematically upgrading and renovating all police facilities nationwide following rigorous engineering aftermath. We're not quite complete, and of course, Melissa hit a few, which we are working on now. Notwithstanding the impact of Hurricane Melissa, which hit the economy very hard, there is now about $30 billion worth of investment on the ground. Not pipe dream, not promises, on the ground, which we can talk about. These include the Westmoreland Police Division, and I didn't invite them to give you any problem, Mr. President. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, there's some heat there. I don't know if it's your colleague in Eastern or so, kind of remind you that he will need some attention. You know. The St. Catherine North Division, both models of what should be divisional headquarters, and of course, replacement in Bull Bay, Cave Valley, Mucker, Granville, and Amity Hall in St. James are already in the pre-construction phase, and we are working on DIAS. Investment in security for the safety of public Jamaicans. And we'll come to more. There's a major special operation unit to be built in Montego Bay. It will be a multi-billion-dollar project because we have had to be spending money renting spaces for police officers costing millions of dollars, and we'll put that there as a major public sector investment. It will run in the region anywhere from $8 to $12 billion. The save average maybe $10 billion, which will be a major, one of the biggest government investment in the public sector infrastructure for a long time. But the move there, Madam Speaker, was not just a matter of high crime rate in Montego Bay, or the fact that we say a number of us have interjected in the government. Myself, my colleague, as senior minister, and the Prime Minister, loves Montego Bay. We love him there too. But the economic reality is that a lot of activities have shifted west. In fact, we're discussing the expansion of the UWI campus. It's pointed out that the population from St. Anne to St. Elizabeth exceeds the same campus, the population of that serves the new campus in the Eastern Caribbean. In addition to that, we have seen major investment moving out. In fact, while we have had disinvestment in the Southeast region, a fact we are also seeking to reverse, but a fact of the economy, Twickenham Park, Bell Road, etc., where a lot of industry went, and government is the driving force. We're now doing the development of the port facilities that will replace that. But in the West, the airport alone has seen investment of nearly 400 million US. The perimeter road is there, the hotel rooms, the outsourcing activities. I've also seen economic activity moving to the northwest and the population increasing accordingly. Negril now is a major township. Montego Bay is a hub. We have multi-port, which is the Montego Bay port facility have expanded and improved. And we go all the way to Ultra, the highway system has improved. And it's now maybe one of Jamaica's most creative and active economic zone. It therefore required expanded public services. Many of the entrepreneurial spirit of Jamaica I've seen been coming out of the Freeport. They sometimes are criticized for the style, but people like CPZ have become a large conglomerate and other activities out there. So it is necessary that we put investment in public service. So the police station expanded to ensure not only to stop the crime rate rise, but to provide the service required, transportation, our hospital, and the minister have taken some bit of time, but we need all the expanded services in that area, and that's what the investment is about. The police stations have been referred to before, new ones in Mount Salem, Montego Hills, coming Bluefield, Silo, and Newmarket, and Betheltown. We have also ensured, Madam Speaker, that we have strengthened the legislative framework, which is critical to ensure professionalism and sustainability of our successes. The Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act 2022 was a decisive shift in our response to illegal firearms. This legislation was carefully examined and advanced through the Joint Select Committee, and I commend my colleagues on the other side who were involved in this. And this act was a national policy. I see my friend from Southeast Clarendon. No, he played an active role in the committee. Like, Southwest. You're coming here to the West. Yes. Good broad deliberation and national consensus. Tough penalties were introduced, including mandatory sentencing. We have had a few minor things to amend, and that proceeding, and we should have that in this financial year. We have complemented this with strong anti-gang measures, organized, professional, targeted policing, data-driven, and calculated to find the gangs where they are, disrupt them, and intelligence has been expanded, ensuring enforcement is not only robust, but strategic and targeted, hence a reduction we have had in criminal violence. This has been further strengthened by the allowing MOCA an increased range of activities which they can investigate. And we have seen that coming, I said, not only the public sector, but their work in the recent corruption activity at the bank is signature of the kind of work that MOCA can do to ensure there's integrity. The legislative strengthening has been reinforced by decisive operational tools, those through short-term targeted interventions such as the state of public emergency. This disrupts organized criminal activity and restores order in command. There's a graph up there, I don't know if they can find it, which shows clearly each time we had a state of public emergency, there was a dramatic fall. But to ensure sustainability, we had to build out the police force, and it will show at another stage in the discussion. Some say it will not work, but it is clear, the evidence is clear. They worked and worked well. The zones of special operations were further introduced to deal with a medium-term attack on criminal activity, but also to restore hope and public order in some very vulnerable communities. This year, we'll complete amendments to the Aliens Act, the Immigration Restriction Counter-Citizens Act, and the Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act. The first, Madam Speaker, I've been there a long time. It sounds a little bit, the Aliens Act, Immigration Restriction Counter-Citizens Act, has been around for a long time. In fact, we inherited it at a very advanced stage. We have made one major amendment. We'll be bringing it to the House during this first quarter. It is critical in maintaining the good border management and also in dealing with entire visitor operating airports and a number of other activities critical to security. And we are going to have ensured that it has been going through the system. I think it spent about 5 years in there. Then the member from South Sudan nods, and then we came on and just been rolling to the system. But we'll get it done in this Q1. My staff is focused and we'll have it there. Critical piece of legislation. There will be a national policy against trafficking in person to be tabled as a green paper. We'll table in national visa policy as a white paper within the next 2 months. Table the crime prevention through social transformation policy as a green paper will also be tabled. We'll use the new corrections policy developed by the ministry to guide amendments to the Corrections Act, which will be tabled again in this first quarter. These legislative priorities are designed to reinforce the strong institutional and operational framework we have built, ensuring that the gains we have made are secured in law and sustained over the long term. There are other legislative to be done. I will not mention here because the process, Madam Speaker, as you are aware, and from your seat, Jamaica seems to examine the entire process of legislating, and if not the process, to look at how we treat the corporate centers in the various ministries, as we have shifted much activity from the ministry to agencies, and have done very little to strengthen the corporate services in the ministry, so that the policies can be done efficiently and well in a short time and get the required instruction to our legislator, to our lawyers who write legislation. They too need strengthening so that we do not have to take multi-years to do major legislation. We're not only investing in crime fighting, Madam Speaker, measures, we're investing in people, and we're transforming our correctional system at an unprecedented pace. I want to emphasize, Madam Speaker, we're sometime attacked there, and we still have old prisoners. One of them is over 200 years old. But we are doing work, and I want to again extend comment to my Minister of State. We're ensuring that the wards of state and inmates are given real opportunities for growth, development, and transformation. Wards in our juvenile facilities are now being assessed, guided, and trained for the future. They are learning trades. That's a graduation ceremony for some of our juveniles. They are learning trades, building confidence, and even stepping into the field like coding and robotics as we give them this appropriate emotional and psychosocial support. This is transformation in action, Madam Speaker, turning correction into opportunity. Turning correction into opportunity and rehabilitation is a real second chance. Through the Retransform program, we are strengthening rehabilitation and reintegration through strategic partnership. At the South Camp, we have just built a modern sewing facility for the ladies so they can live there capable to find active economic activity. This builds on early efforts at the Metcalf Street Center, where we have a full recording studio. Music is still a part of the genetics of Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, we are advancing bold child rehabilitation and social reintegration strategies. This is grounded in a more humane and forward-looking vision of justice by the administration. It recognizes that children in conflict with the law requires guidance, not punishment. These efforts, all listed above, are already showing measurable results, Madam Speaker. In 2025, the recidivism rate declined from 41% to 27% for the first time in our history, reflecting meaningful progress in offender reintegration. For the first time in recent history, we are recording this kind of significant reduction. The department has an agricultural program, Madam Speaker, and I want to pause a very strong agricultural program. We are training not only for the reintegration, but we have made the prison system self-sufficient in eggs, poultry, and pork production, building discipline, skills, and a culture of productivity and good reintegration. Right? Now, my Minister of Agriculture is going to give some more support, and we will, we're going to supply the canteen downstairs here. Not a small fee. Good product. Madam Speaker, we have significantly strengthened our border, not only by intercepting threats, but by modernizing how we manage the movement of people at the goods, at the airports. It's a much better service today than we inherited, but in fact, we have a way to go. It's a costly process. We expect it will take at least 24 to 36 months to do it properly. We'll be able to work with the Ministry of Tourism introducing that electronic transfer approval, get the PNR system working effectively, but we are much better today than we were before. And everyone will tell you, walking to the airport now is a much different experience it was back then. But at the same time, their work in security has been critical. Through enhanced intelligence, advanced cargo scanning, and risk-based targeting system, our border security agencies continue to disrupt transnational criminal networks and prevent entry of illegal firearms and narcotics to our country. At the same time, we are improving the experience for the legitimate travelers through the Peak Passport Immigration and Citizenship Agency. We have advanced the ease and efficiency of processing at airports. In close partnership with the Customs Agency, we are strengthening coordination across our ports of entry, ensuring that our borders are both secure and critical. And jointly, they have just completed a new C5 form that the parents are very pleased about. Customs Agency and Pecan should be introduced, I think, in June. In June, it should be fully introduced. Yeah. We are going to introduce new technologies that will further modernize the airport systems and our port facilities and our points of entry. Madam Speaker, building on the social prevention pillar of Plan Secure Jamaica, the City Security Plan remains our primary vehicle for delivering the peace dividend to our communities. Support by the European Union, UK's Violence Prevention Partnership Programme, and our own consolidated fund, the CSP has delivered targeted investment in governance, infrastructure, and social intervention. And Madam Speaker, I just pause again to recognize the several members of the diplomatic corps present in the audience from our partners who have been supportive in our efforts throughout, and we welcome them to this event, and we look forward to continuing work with them. We have strengthened oversight through the City Security Business Group, initiated by the Prime Minister. The establishment of safe space in vulnerable communities, continue the upgrading of police stations, skills training and certification by at-risk youth like heavy vehicle driving and other construction work, which continue to work closely with the Heart and Ministry of Education to see how we can scale these operations and really provide a genuine alternative for our young people. The construction of 2 domestic violence shelters is complete and the third is about to be completed. The establishment of a child and adolescent guidance and therapeutic wellness center in Montego Bay and plans to expand it to at least 2 more areas quickly. The rollout of the interministerial school support strategy in 37 schools, that too will scale up. We have successfully closed phase 1, but building on the lessons of phase 1, we are strengthening what works and expanding our reach. The CSP will now extend beyond the ZOZOs to vulnerable communities under the Community Renewal Program. These results reflect strong institutions, improved coordination, and growing confidence from our development partners. Unlike interventions like SOE, which deliver strong immediate reductions, the CSP drives sustained community transformation, beginning with the individual. As a result of these investments, Madam Speaker, we have seen direct result in terms of the violence. So I have to go back there. Just to remind the public and my listeners across and those on the internet and the youth, Jamaica recorded 674 murders in 2025, marking the first time in over 32 years that murders have fallen below 700. 32 years. We're now on the threshold of achieving another in the historic low. Yes. The first quarter of the calendar year has already recorded a significant 29% reduction, decline in murders compared to the corresponding period last year. In fact, there's a bar chart in the chart that shows you how that decline is in fact reflecting successful systemic changes, not an incident. As one man was quick to write when we got the 674, that they need to see a trend. Well, you can look and see there's a trend coming from Q4 of 2024. Strong trend. Yes, and the quarters are showing it. The fact is that the last 2 quarters have been the lowest on record since police began collecting data. So we see we are now at the past tipping point and going down rapidly down. There will be no turning back. Q4 2025 was 153. Q1 2026 is 134. And we'll continue. And no, Madam Speaker, though, I think, well, the member from North St. Andrew is here. But for the entire quarter of Q1 2026, there was not one single murder in Northern St. Andrew. It has some tough, hardcore areas. Tough areas. I used to, every month, Madam Speaker. I used to every month, Madam Speaker. Look at the report. Brook Valley, Stony Hill, Park Lane, 100 Lane, Aki Walk, Gully Bank. Them things that come again. Nothing happening. Zero. You know, we give God thanks for our successes, but it was hard work, good policy to start with, good planning, hard work and investment in our security forces. Well, let me go a little further, Madam Speaker. It was suggested that since 2017, we have saved 3,000 lives by the work of this government. This represents an average of 374 Jamaicans who are still alive today to look to our future. Shooting and other violent crimes all declined. We express gratitude not only to our security forces, but to our international partners. You see the graph, and again, I'm not following as well, but a steep decline since 2022 in particular. Without the investments and the action and planning of our government, Jamaica would have continued a trajectory that would have made us one of the most unsafe places in the world. Today, people are beginning to have confidence in the street again. There, I pause again. There have been an incident that gives concern. Entertainment is an area where I have constant discussion, and there have been no contention really. But we have had this one. My colleagues to my right, both of them, my constituency, in other words, Flanker sees itself as the entertainment center of Montego Bay. At the time when I was in Flanker, you had Wednesday, Wednesday, Disney Thursday, Wet Sunday, and Friday and Saturday, every day of the week, a party going. And in the Prime Minister's got the hip strip and Olympic Way. They're partying all the time. But we have seen some little trend, and we are going to work to, we're not going to allow it, criminals to disrupt our entertainment. We have got the tipping point by sustained investment in the police, technology, human capital, and the JSAF and the wider ministry. But we are going to, the police will be meeting and instructing, especially in large events, the proper operation must be put in place to protect the event. We're not stopping them, but it is established once says the FLA has the armored vehicle, will come. It's must be part of the cost for those big events. The police will be there to ask, because we are working jointly with the citizens and the police and the other agencies to ensure there's peace and protect our people. In the smaller ones, it is sometimes tricky. But it is the policy of the police not to stop the round robins and the wakes, etc. But they must also understand that part of this, large part of the substance of the police force is sheer intelligence. And we know when they are about to damage somebody's party. So sometimes we have to stop them. We can't tell them, but it is a fact of life and you have to understand. There are many years having parties, but sometimes, you hear things happen. There will be, social media allows for quick transmission of data and pictures. And we have had one or two incidents which the police commissioner is concerned about. They said the police were abusing their authority. This commissioner and his team has introduced extensive training, not only for special operations team, but in how police manage interface with the public. But they're still concerned if there's one incident. We don't view any incident where the police seem to go off track a bit as acceptable, and the police commissioner has made his comments, his instructions in his weekly reminders to his police officers under the police publication on a weekly basis, and we know that he'll correct them. The police force we have today is not only better trained, better equipped, but it's a highly professional team that I have every confidence in and will continue to conduct themselves. Madam Speaker, key drivers to progress have been the strengthening of intelligence policing, which I've seen recovery of massive amount of weapons. 1,076 weapons in 2025 alone. Illegal firearms. 1,000. If they kill one, each is 1,000. The police have effectively found them, and in recent times, firearm recoveries have increased, violence declined. And average recovered, some statistics have relevance. In 2011, on average, we recovered about 44 firearms for every 100 murders. 44 for every 100 murders. A ratio of 4 to 10. In 2024, we recovered 73 firearms for every 100 murders, 7 out of 10. We find the gun and we take them. By 2025, we're recovering an average of 3 firearms for every 2 murders. In other words, we are finding some of the stockpiles in the armories because of better intelligence. There's a 50 to 1. No, we'll take
Mr. Based on the motion, you don't need to sit. You will hear the bell go off just to remind you of the extension of time. And so it helps you to manage the remainder of your presentation. Continue, Minister.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The ratio of arrest to murder has been from approximately 44 arrests per 100 murders in 2012 an extraordinary 99 arrests for every 100 murders. This level of performance signals a major breakthrough driven by stronger intelligence, better coordination, and effective national response. A transformed Jamaica Constable Force working in collaboration with other agencies, MOCA, JDF, and others in the security architecture. We're moving towards a one-to-one relationship. Because the greatest deterrence to criminal activity is certitude of apprehension, prosecution. And my advice will say we have to incapacitate the criminal. If they fight, we knock them out too. Civil society, I just want to make a quick comment, Madam Speaker, and my 24 is good. Let me begin by affirming that Jamaica is a strong democratic country governed by the rule of law, and we have no problem with criticism of the police force or any element of the security forces. More critically, even internationally, we tend not to pay respect to our own achievements in certain areas. Jamaica is one of the oldest democracies in the world. We are among the top 10, right? Even our good friends, and many of our good friends haven't achieved that. But 82 years of electoral democracy, on time within the Constitution, we have had change of government, a majority of one. We have countries, well, I don't mind, they are friends, but France couldn't pass a budget last year. No? About 2 years they can't pass a budget. The US had the conflict of February 20, when they had a change of government. We have been able to have election when we occupied Parliament completely on time and change government. The reflection of Jamaica's commitment to democracy, and I must respect it. We sometimes follow the legacy thought that, of course, because we are politicians, we are not capable of doing what should be done, and disrespect our democracy. It's one of the strongest and most resilient in the world. And I put it here because we have in place institutional framework to oversee, monitor, and evaluate the conduct of our public servants and police force. At once, you have about 4 bodies overseeing the police, and yet when you have an incident here, we must call for independent review. Foolishness. INDECOM, the Office of the Defender, Public Defender, the Financial Investigation Division, the Integrity Commission, and I probe into all bodies which oversee public servants and the police force. And they were designed to investigate issues and take them through the criminal justice system. It's important, Madam Speaker, because if we charge the police in particular in a high violence society, you know, President went to 60 per 100,000. You know. The United Nations defined what? 36 as civil strife. Went as far as 60. If we support cause that make the police look like they are acting criminally in high violence and in difficult areas, it undermines the authority of the police. More critically, and I feel strongly, I said, you know, I didn't lose my temper when I went and read the railroad, and I wasn't fully out yet. It hurts me personally, very strongly about it. We must allow the criminal justice system and the oversight body to work. You put policemen at risk. You put 2 police officers in my constituency, retiring members of the force, were killed because it was said that police were killing people without cause. And these were retiring, so they find the soft targets. Mr. Brown family understand. The man was about to retire. Mr. Lindsay was going to look for his friend in Glendevon, right? Who's a lady who was the mother of many of the strongmen. But it was said the week before they had killed somebody without cause, and they murdered it man. He went to say goodbye because he was retiring and returning to St. Anne. A quiet little old man driving, of course, on the old corridor they used to have, so he couldn't drive too far, dropping a patrol, and the man just walk and shoot him. But more critically, we have recruited 7,100 bright young Jamaicans. Yes. They come from the same challenged communities. head boy from Titchfield, Garvey Masio, St. Catherine High. They have their other siblings in the same high school. They have their girlfriends and their sisters as teachers in school in those years in primary school. When you start make out that these young men are joining a force to shoot people innocently, then they get assaulted in the community. We cannot allow that to happen. And I will not accept it, condone it, or apologize for it. Civil society is that do so. INDECOM, Madam Speaker, was the Independent Commission of Investigation designed to prevent this kind of violent attack to hurt the police. There is no evidence to suggest that INDECOM is being impaired or that the police is doing anything illegal. They are in a high violence society. They are in combat, where men are shooting on them. Sometimes some of these people calling on the police to always have cameras should go there and go to Twickenham Park and let the JD fire some rounds on them head, them hear what an F-16 buzzing on them head is like. Policemen know that, they face that. They can't be made into targets. INDECOM report published in 2024 shows, Madam Speaker, that there was 1,936 total shootings investigated between 2011 and 2023, over a 13-year period. There were 66 cases that went to prosecution. They are not complete, so we can't say how many were successful. But that still, if you take all of them, that 3.4% prosecution. That cannot be used to condemn the professional police officers. It's irresponsible, immoral, and wrong. In 2024, 11 were charged. Of that 11, 8 of them were off-duty police officers, civilians move about their business. You cannot use that kind of evidence and bring about assault on our young policemen families. It is, again, I say, it is dangerous, it is immoral, and it is wrong. And I make no apologies for that. Citizens have increased, however, and not taking them too seriously because they have been seen significant improvement in citizens' participation in policing. For example, over the past decade, payouts to tipsters have increased significantly. But on the other hand, the number of people coming in for reward is much less percentage-wise. Every day the police give me a report, targeted raid, find firearm because they get information from the citizens. They are winning the trust and confidence of the people. Less than 6% of the tipsters, 10% collect reward. It's a reflection that Jamaicans are now gaining the confidence, they gain respect for the police force. They are informed the police not as informers, but as responsible citizens, not for tips, but to ensure that we can continue to protect and serve our citizens. They are taking a stand for the well-being of their communities. This we must celebrate, Madam Speaker. Now I turn to the peace dividend briefly, and with my time. Ask, what is the peace dividend, Madam Speaker? Simply put, the peace dividend is a tangible social, economic, and developmental benefits delivered directly to communities that achieve and sustain measurable reduction in crime and violence. And I repeat that, Madam Speaker. The peace dividend that the Prime Minister indicated we must seek to introduce across all ministries, because it's designed is the tangible social, economic, and developmental benefits to the formerly challenged communities. They were directly delivered to those communities. So it is to give them safer streets, stronger families, more opportunities for their young people, and a better quality of life for all the citizens in those communities. It's when the old lady can now continue to go to a prayer meeting on Wednesday night and don't feel afraid to walk because she might be shot in gang war. When children can go to the school next door and not have to take a taxi and go to the community. Workers can take the work at night and come home from the free zone or want to go free for the hotel after when they are released from work at 1 o'clock. And my constituent now don't have to fret and tell me, boy, daughter get a job, but she can't go because she can't taxi come home and she go sleep with some man downtown who don't even know. Those days are done because of the work of the police force. As a peace dividend. Some interesting facts. The final estimate that crime costs Jamaica between 4 and 6% of GDP. Public costs account for about 1.5 to 2.5%. Private costs about 1.5 to 4 to 2.16. And in addition, human capital losses amount for about 1.33% of GDP, reflecting reduced economic productivity, a big problem for society, due to homicides, non-lethal victimization, and incarceration. The academics outline that not only the estimate that each life lost is not only a tragedy, but an economic loss, and they put that about 147,000 years. So if you consider lives saved between 2017 and 2025, economic benefit to Jamaica is between $360 and $700 million US. According to this study, based on expenditure on the implementation of the state of public emergency alone, Jamaica realized a return of between $44 and $90 per head on the dollar invested. This is the power of peace, Madam Speaker. This is what our Prime Minister spoke about. Peace saves lives. Peace creates value, and peace must be reinvested in those vulnerable communities. Building a durable peace requires more than an individual program. So we'll be having extensive proximity program through the City Security Bureau across various ministries. We will provide opportunities for schools. We work with the schools, and we work with the Ministry of Education to ensure we can broaden and scale up much of the program we have done. Our case management program is an outstanding example of successful intervention. The police community security and safety branch is being expanded. We expect to be able to place resource personnel in all the challenged schools. And I'm sure the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Education work to ensure those schools do not remain long in their state. They classify them as tier 3 and 4 schools where the productivity is absolute, well, I won't go say it's 0, but we end up not providing any quality education for some very hard-working, humble Jamaicans. That will change and must change under this administration. There are 59 such schools at the secondary level and 134 at the primary level. In fact, one primary school, we did a national survey, all the schools. And unfortunately, I found the most unsafe school, medical school in Westmoreland, based on the survey. And the safest school, incidentally, was in the hills of St. Elizabeth, on a constituency border. It was interesting, I thought, because in the school that was considered safe, they knew all of the political leadership. One was from both sides. And this have active PTA, active community activity. The other one, they didn't know anybody at all. So, I urge the members here to provide leadership in the community and be involved in the guidance to the children in a responsible way. The police, in our movement to deliver the peace dividend, will be like the driver of the vehicle, working with case managers, social workers, school principals, and parents to ensure we can take the dividends to those communities, which are a challenge. And the police will not only be seen as special operations team in the blue uniform, which will continue to be there, because that gives them confidence that they are safe to work with the police or special operations team. Our intelligence teams are there to look for them and find them. We will not allow any hiding place for any criminal activity. At the same time, the school police resource officer and the members of the Community Security Safety Branch know the personnel. They know the bad guys, they know the challenged families, and their job is to ensure we can get the social workers and the guidance counselors to meet those families, the single mother who is under pressure, the one with 4 or 5 kids, and get them into the social safety net. Jamaica does not have a wealthy, well-endowed safety net, say, compared to developed countries. But we have several programs that can assist such people, and we are ensuring that they get to the right people and provide hope for those people in these areas. The work of the police officer is to build trust, deepen cooperation, and ensure that security is felt and not just enforced. Yes. Keeping the peace requires more than enforcement. It requires structure, standard, and consistency. We'll strengthen the public audits here, Madam Speaker, because we have built out a strong e-ticketing information management system. One was there before, called TTMS. Cost government a lot of money. It was never used. We have spent time and built out a proper system, and everybody who get a traffic ticket now know they are met by a police officer with a ruggedized handheld device I give them a ticket, and you can pay it on the telephone and it goes. It's going a long way in strengthening our ability to manage our public spaces. We're going to expand this. That's why we call the ticketing information management system. For example, it can be applied to noise abatement. So rather than have the police fight with a promoter over his equipment, which is today's world is primitive, plus expensive. They're using computers, not big boxes, again. So they can give them a ticket. And you can have a structured system. First, whether it's ticket for a party at home, ticket in a square, the amount varies with time, as well as if they do more than 2 or 3, it goes up and they can end up being a warrant for court. But we're going to introduce a technology-driven, modern, efficient system to reduce antagonism between the police and the citizen, even when they breach the law. So instead of take our vendors' basket them goods, after corporate the Ministry of Local Government, we give them a ticket. And they know it's coming. We are providing, training a modern police force that will be able to restore, not only reduce criminal violence, but indeed restore public order and bring hope and opportunity to our people across the country. That is the legacy of this government, and we make no point taking credit. The zones of special operation, thank you, will become zones of peace and opportunity as we expand our opportunity, because we're not leaving those communities. Even when we take down the checkpoints, we'll ensure that we continue to provide the services to those communities. These will represent a new phase as we move on to other areas, because we don't necessarily need the same level of intense security in the other areas that are vulnerable. So we'll have no phase where peace is not enforced but sustained. We're opting to replace fear. Enforcement policing now becomes community-based development policing. And where communities are rewarded for maintaining stability. We seek to build peaceful society, but return to a positive Jamaican cultural activity. Our Live Good program, we're going to the schools, in the communities, and across the country. As the grandmothers used to tell you, we have to live good with each other. Madam Speaker, there is no doubt that there's a breath of fresh air across Jamaica. You know, it's ironic, Madam Speaker. We used to be always a laughing stock for the Caribbean. But then tell you the last carnival, the Trinidad and found their way to Jamaica. You know why, Madam Speaker? Not because that's a wonderful carnival, but it's just safe to walk on the streets of Jamaica despite of a little hiccup at one party. More people are coming here. We are making our community safe, and people are recognizing that. They have asked us for help across the Caribbean. I have 30 police officers in the Turks and Caicos. They have in 1 year reduced homicides by nearly 40% there too. They're asking us to take them in training. We have been invited to transfer those to other areas in the Caribbean. And export products for Jamaica, where we're earning what we have invested. Madam Speaker, it has been a pleasure to work with the team, with the leadership of this Prime Minister, and the men and women of the ministry, and in particular our police force under the leadership of Kevin Blake. But we are going to ensure that our achievements not only will not be undermined, but will be sustainable by legislation and investment. Today, we have, as I said, we are investing enough to ensure that, and the training program to guide and develop our young officers. Yes, we have transformed the police force. Yes. A friend of mine said, they look better, Dr. Chan. They operate better. They succeed in reducing. And one lady said to me, Dr. Chan, you know how long we see a police car park for the bar? They're out working. We are seeing historically low levels of serious crime. We are removing illegal firearms from our streets. Our arresting rates are rising and more citizens are coming forward to support law enforcement. Yes, we are incapacitating the criminals. We've identified them, we find them, we arrest them, prosecute them. If they fight and we have to shoot, we will succeed. We stop them. But our work is not finished. We must sustain these gains. We must deepen the peace. And we must prepare the next generation to inherit a Jamaica where violence is not the answer, but opportunity is the norm. This is not only about enforcement, Madam Speaker, colleagues. It is about transformation. Yes. It is about building Jamaican families, yes, strengthening communities, and creating pathways for young people to succeed. Hear, hear. We will continue this work with focus and determination. Jamaican people have entrusted us on this side with a mandate to lead, to protect, and to deliver and serve them. We will not be deterred or shifted in our objective. Under the leadership of this Honorable Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, we will continue to move the country forward in peace, in good economics, and in prosperity. A Jamaica that is safer, a Jamaica that is stronger, yes, a Jamaica where peace endures, yes, a Jamaica where all Jamaicans and others will want to live, work, raise their families, do business, and rely in peace and live in kind peace. May God bless Jamaica. Thank you, Madam Speaker. How about that, Chairman? Yes.
Madam Speaker, let us thank the most successful Minister of National Security in the history of Jamaica. I don't think that is in question, Madam Speaker. I don't think that is in question. Excellent, excellent work. We will now hear from the opposition spokesperson on energy and telecommunications, the member from Kingston East and Port Royal.
Thank you, House Leader. Member of Parliament for Kingston East and Port Royal.
Madam Speaker, Jamaica stands at a defining crossroads. The decisions this Parliament makes on energy and telecommunications will determine whether our people pay less for electricity, whether our entrepreneurs can compete in a digital economy, and whether Jamaica leads or lags the region for the next generation. We on this side, the People's National Party, we come to this debate with a clear and unwavering conviction that the only sustainable path forward for this country is to build with purpose and to build with people. Every proposal I lay before this Parliament today is rooted in that conviction. That is what I have come to address today. I give thanks to the Almighty for the strength and the privilege to serve. Madam Speaker, I pay tribute to the people of the great constituency of East Kingston and Port Royal, who have once again elected me for the 7th straight term. And Madam Speaker, counting the number of years I spent in another place, this year marks 31 years of service to this country. Every one of those years has been in service to the people of Jamaica, and in particular to my people in East Kingston and Port Royal, because they know when I win, they win. I extend special thanks to my councillors, and I have to pause to big up the newly elected Deputy Mayor of the KCC, I want to thank my task force. I want to thank my party leader for his continued faith in me as spokesperson on energy and telecommunications and as leader of opposition business. It's a responsibility I carry with the utmost seriousness. Madam Speaker, I did not come here today to reflect on the past. I came to speak about Jamaica's future. And in a moment, I will lay before this Parliament a set of specific and actionable proposals for energy and telecommunications that, if adopted, will lower costs for Jamaican households, accelerate our digital transformation, and position this nation as a competitive force in the Caribbean economy. I don't think I'll have the time today, so I'm inviting all the listeners and viewers to check my online presentation tomorrow at 5 p.m. Before I proceed, Madam Speaker, a brief word on my role as leader of opposition business. Much of the substantive work this year will center on the review of the standing orders, a process I welcome and to which the opposition is fully committed. We look forward to engaging with the comprehensive CPA document that you have provided, and we're grateful for that document. Our goal is a parliament that is more dynamic, where minority voices carry real weight, and where democratic oversight is genuinely enshrined. And of course, we'll have enough time to address that in the Standing Orders Committee. But, Madam Speaker, there is one matter of parliamentary principle that I must place on the record because it speaks directly to the integrity of this institution and to the quality of our democracy. And I have shared this with you recently when you and I sat next to each other at a committee, and I thought to myself, my speaker should not be a member of this committee. My speaker should always be chairing a committee. But I don't like when the speaker has to get into some of the contentious issues. So the role of the speaker is by constitutional design and long-standing convention, one of strict impartiality. The chair exists above the partisan divide as a guardian of fair process for all members, government and opposition alike. It is therefore a matter of institutional concern, one that I raise out of respect, that we have recently witnessed the speaker's presence in contentious committee meetings in a manner that has been perceived as lending support to the government's policy. I don't think this is right, Madam Speaker. I think if we're serious about our standing orders reform, and if we're serious about strengthening Jamaican democracy, that we must also be serious about protecting you and the role of impartiality as Speaker. And so I say respectfully, Madam Speaker, you really ought to resist your party's inclination to demean the office, and I would advise in those matters where you're not chairing committees, you really ought not to remain on them. Madam Speaker, I am grateful to our party leader for returning the portfolio of telecommunications to my stewardship. I do not receive it as a ceremonial honor. I receive it as a mandate to complete work that remains unfinished. When I last held this portfolio, this Parliament oversaw one of the most consequential economic transformation in Jamaica's modern history, the full liberalization of telecommunications. That decision opened our airwaves to competition, drove down costs for Jamaican consumers, created thousands of jobs, and attracted foreign investment at a scale this sector had never seen. It was a model that every Caribbean nation subsequently followed, and one that international bodies have cited as a proven standard for developing economies. That legacy belongs not to a single individual, but to a vision of a political administration that was prepared to take bold decisions in the national interest. And I am very proud to be a part of that administration. And I say to this Parliament today, the boldness that built that foundation is precisely what this sector now requires again. Madam Speaker, we should pause to recognize two significant milestones that fall this year. Digicel, the only multinational company to have been founded in Jamaica and subsequently exported its reach and its character to markets across the world, celebrates its 25th anniversary, and we should salute them. We should salute them. We also have to recognize the Universal Service Fund, a cornerstone instrument for extending the connectivity to every corner of this island. Marks 21 years of distinguished operation, and we should salute them as well. These are not mere footnotes. They are proof that when Jamaica gets its telecoms policy right, the results are felt in communities, in businesses, and in the international reputation of this nation. Add to these the Spectrum Management Authority, the e-learning initiative, the e-government, which has now become information and communication, and the other institutions built during the period of reform, and the record speaks with clarity. This party built the architecture of Jamaica's digital infrastructure. We have every right to hold this government to account for what has or has not been done with it. And I did receive a message from the minister with responsibility, minister, the member from Western Portland, that he's unavoidably absent today. He had to do an emergency visit overseas. I was going to depute the leader of government business to take notes, but he's not here now. So I'm going to depute the member from West Kingston to do so.
I don't think note taking is important.
Madam Speaker, I say all of that not to dwell in the past, but to provide an honest baseline against which the present must be measured. And when that measurement is made, the conclusion is uncomfortable. The telecom sector in Jamaica has, for the better part of a decade, been advancing at a pace that is simply not commensurate with the demands of the modern digital economy. Policy ambition in this sector has stalled. The last meaningful reform to be delivered was the implementation of number portability. That was in 2016. What was left on the table in 2016 remains on the table today. The issues identified then as urgent priorities have not been resolved. They have simply been deferred, whilst the world has moved on and the gap between Jamaica's regulatory framework and the realities of a rapidly evolving global sector has continued to widen. Madam Speaker, allow me to place on the parliamentary record 5 areas of unfinished business that this shadow ministry intends to address fulsomely. Each of these is a commitment not to process, but to purpose and to people. First, the convergence of technology must be met with a convergence of regulation. The boundaries between telecommunications, broadcasting, and internet services have, in practical terms, ceased to exist. Secondly, Jamaica's transition from 4G LTE to 5G infrastructure cannot be allowed to proceed without a clear national strategy. Fifth generation connectivity is not simply faster internet. It is the foundational infrastructure upon which the Internet of Things, telemedicine, precision agriculture, smart cities, and the next generation of Jamaican industry will depend. We need a plan, and we need it now. Third, Madam Speaker, the co-location of telecoms infrastructure must be made a regulatory requirement. Competing providers constructing parallel and duplicated physical infrastructure is wasteful, visibly intrusive, and economically inefficient. Fourth, monopolistic control over access to submarine fiber cable capacity must be directly addressed. And fifth, meaningful competition, which we achieved some time ago, must be reintroduced again in those basic service segments where market concentration continues to work against the interests of ordinary Jamaica. So, Madam Speaker, the 5 structural issues I have just outlined are matters of regulatory policy. But I wish to speak to the lived experience of Jamaican consumers, because it is that lived experience which ultimately justifies the urgency of the reforms. The quality of our telecom services in Jamaica is by any objective measure below the standards that consumers are paying for and below the standard. Madam Speaker, I'm tired to be on my phone, losing the calls, seeing appearing on my screen, missed calls, and the phone didn't ring. Madam Speaker, I don't want to beat up too much on the providers, but the service is poor and we need an improvement in the service. And I have to call upon the Office of Utilities Regulation, because they have the obligation to enforce service quality standards with rigor and transparency. This Parliament has an obligation to hold it accountable for doing so. I intend to exercise that obligation fully. Madam Speaker, even as we press for a more resilient telecoms infrastructure, we must register our concern regarding a recent government initiative. On February 2nd, the government announced that it is engaging Trans-America's Fiber System Limited to design, build, and operate a subsea cable branching unit into Jamaica, together with an associated cable land station at a cost of $50 million. Let me remind this House that when we liberalized the telecoms industry in 2000, we achieved competition in relation to fiber access by awarding licenses to two companies, one of which, FiberLink, deployed service. At that time, Madam Speaker, I ensured that the government would have adequate access to fiber network by earmarking such provision within the license granted. That facility remains available to the government to this day. Unfortunately, the second company subsequently merged with Cable and Wireless, and we no longer have competition in that segment of the market. Prices are now very high, and we would welcome a return to a fully competitive environment. We would. We are, however, concerned about the role that the government intends to play going forward. Madam Speaker, we again call for full transparency. Nothing has been said publicly since the announcement in January, and this Parliament, I think, deserves an update. First, what is the total cost of the facility and how it will be financed? Second, has a written agreement been concluded with Trans-America's Fiber System Limited, and will it be shared with the Jamaican people? Third, on what basis and by what process will access to the facility be determined? Fourth, what is the defined and bounded role of the government in the operations and governance of this facility? Madam Speaker, we support the addition of greater bandwidth capacity for the country. However, we question the extent of government involvement, particularly given that, as I have noted already, we made adequate provision for the government with the award of the first license. So we await the answers from the government. I also want to say briefly, Madam Speaker, some 4 years ago, the minister had announced that there was another licensee granted license to get involved in cellular service. We haven't heard anything since that time. We want to see greater competition. We welcome competition. And we want to see that player on board. Madam Speaker, I want to speak briefly about the recent decommissioning of the 2G network. That has been completed, and the eventual decommissioning of the 3G network is a matter of when, not whether. I don't think sufficient plan, sufficient education had taken place as we removed that 2G network. Many of those persons with bangers were shocked that overnight they did not have service. So, and they still can't recover. So, Madam Speaker, a thorough assessment of the industries were affected, applications and public services that remain dependent upon 3G, as we move to 3G, abandonment. That is going to be urgently required so that the transition can be managed in an orderly, planned, and non-disruptive manner. As I proceed, Madam Speaker, because energy is the real high point, I believe, of the presentation, I just want to say one other word about telecoms. the Telecommunications Act. We passed modern legislation then in 2000. It's over 2 decades now. I think it is sufficient time for the government to revisit that law, to modernize the law because the legislation is in urgent need of a comprehensive review. The nature of emerging technologies and the evolution in the way that established terminologies are applied means that the language of the Act requires updating to reflect current realities. And more fundamentally, the regulatory structure established by the Act must be modernized to take account of the convergence of technologies that I have already described. Madam Speaker, I want to turn to the Universal Service Fund. As I mentioned earlier, the fund celebrates 21 years of service, and I have acknowledged them, but I want to say a special word of thanks to the staff of the Universal Service Fund. And in particular, their commitment to deploying the free Wi-Fi facilities across communities, often in challenging circumstances and certainly with evident enthusiasm. They represent the original mandate of this institution at its best. They have made a genuine and substantial contribution to enabling Jamaicans to access the internet. However, we have not yet achieved the goal of universal broadband connectivity across the island. The mission was to ensure that every single Jamaican in every community has ready access to high-speed broadband connectivity. That mission remains incomplete. And from as early as 2015, the Human Rights Council of the UN had declared that access to the internet is a basic human right. In today's society, the internet is a necessary component of the exercise of the right to freedom of expression, and its use promotes progress for society as a whole. My concern centers on the resources that were provided in this year's budget for the Universal Service Fund. I'm aware that they had asked for $1.4 billion to continue the work that they are doing to ensure that all communities in Jamaica had free Wi-Fi. They only received 400 million of the 1.4 billion asked. And I think that is wrong. And I want to commend to the Ministry of Finance that they look again at the allocation for the USF, because everybody inside here knows that those Wi-Fi facilities that have been established in communities, they cost a lot of money, but many of them don't work after a few weeks because there's no money to maintain them. There's no money to pay the bills. And it really is a shame, because you have these elaborate ceremonies where the communities celebrate the establishment of these free Wi-Fi, and after a short while, the system is down. We have to get the USF greater support, and this is their 21st year. Madam Speaker, again, I remind people, tomorrow you'll get a full presentation online. I wish JIS would cover it.
Don't hold your breath.
The importance of energy to the growth of our economy is not a new argument. And I fully am aware that this House has heard it from me before. I make no apology for returning to it, because the problem has not been resolved, and the consequences for the Jamaican people grow more severe with each passing year. The high cost of energy continues to impose a heavy burden upon our country. It bears down on every household struggling to make ends meet, on every commuter trying to get to work, and on every business fighting to remain viable. Until this issue is addressed with decisiveness and a genuine political will, sustainable economic growth will remain out of reach. On the matter of electricity pricing, the minister would have the country believe that the high price of electricity is attributable solely to the terms of the JPS license. It is necessary, Madam Speaker, to address that claim frontally today. The JPS license came into being in 2001. Over its life, it has been amended by the Jamaica Labour Party government, by the PNP government. Substantial amendments have occurred. Whenever it was necessary that changes were needed in the national interest. It is due to expire in July 2027. There is no legal impediment, Madam Speaker, that should prevent this government from initiating early negotiations and seeking a new license even before that expiry date. The truth, Madam Speaker, is that the failure to act has been a matter of political choice, not legal constraints. And it has sent the entire industry, JPS and all others, in a state of uncertainty that this country cannot afford. That's when I write it. Let me remind this House of the record. Madam Speaker, I remind the House, the price of electricity in 2016, under the very same license, was 26 US cents per kilowatt hour. Today, the price is in excess of 40 US cents per kilowatt hour. That increase has occurred under this government's watch.
Derelict.
Madam Speaker, I mentioned before that there were changes to the JPS license in 2016. The amendments of that license that took effect fundamentally restructured Jamaica's energy mix. So we did do fundamental change to the license in 2016. At that time, approximately 95% of electricity was being generated from heavy fuel oil and diesel, with only 5% due to renewables. As a direct result of the changes to that license, Jamaica's energy mix today stands at approximately 60% LNG, 25% heavy fuel oil, and 15% renewables. A complete revolution took place because we dared to change the license in 2016. That restructuring produced a significant reduction in electricity prices. It was deliberate policy, not accident. Let me remind this House, and it wasn't easy, you know, because when we first went to JPS to talk about bringing more renewables online, on the grid, they said if you put more than 5%, it's going to lead to instability. We're going to have shutdown and blackouts. And today we're at 15%. We need to get to 50%. Since that time, not a single new renewable source has been added. In 2013, we brought on 120 megawatts. Nothing has been added since that time. We also, in 2016, brought on net billing, where we allowed persons who were generating their own electricity through solar, doing more than they needed at home, to sell to the excess, to sell the excess to the grid. That was net billing. We gave 700 licenses during that period. What has happened since 2016? But, Madam Speaker, as I speak about the JPS license, I think it is appropriate because in 2024, when we were hit by Hurricane Beryl, we did criticize the JPS harshly for the slow response. I want to put on record our appreciation for the JPS's response to Hurricane Melissa. And even though they are not 100% as yet, I think the effort has been valiant. We want the people, though, of Westmoreland to get electricity back as soon as possible. As soon as possible. And St. Elizabeth. But, Madam Speaker, let me go back to the license issue. Because today, I intend to show to this Parliament that the Minister need not start any negotiations for a new license. He need not import new advisors to advise him on the terms of a new license. From 2 years ago, we have been providing this Parliament the terms of that new license. Today, I'm going to give you the new license that the minister should include. So firstly, Madam Speaker, this is not new. We were able to do a new license for cable and wireless in 2001. All right. So what are the features? What are the features of this new license? One, the right of first refusal currently enjoyed by JPS for the replacement of its existing generation capacity must be removed. Any new generation license must be procured through the government-owned GPE entity by way of an internationally competitive tender, with awards based on least cost of available renewable technology, supported by the most efficient storage solution. You can't award licenses for renewables without thinking about storage. And the level of efficiency in storage has improved tremendously. I'm telling you what the new license must be. Two, Madam Speaker, secondly, wheeling must be implemented immediately under the new license. This is a facility that permits a large commercial. You know, the license was written in 2016. These are provisions in that 2016 license. Only if we were there to implement them. Only if we were there to implement them. So wheeling is a facility that permits a large commercial or industrial enterprise to generate electricity at one location and to transport it across the national grid to its other locations, subject to a reasonable transmission fee. Time comes for that to be implemented. Madam Speaker, we have said so repeatedly that owners and tenants of special economic zone facilities must be permitted to generate their own electricity and to distribute it within the zone. This will reduce operational costs, improve competitiveness, and attract investment. The member from Western St. Andrew has been pleading that case. Both homeowners and businesses must be enabled to sell surplus electricity generated from rooftop solar installations to the national grid. The pricing structure for electricity sold through net metering licenses must be genuinely incentivized through an appropriate feed-in tariff mechanism. The distribution of electricity must be liberalized to accommodate microgrids. Microgrid licenses are to be awarded on a competitive basis with a specific mandate to provide service to unserved and underserved communities. Access.
Keep going. It's already approved. It's already approved.
Access. Every community must be served, even where a subsidy is required to make that provision economically viable. This is what it means to build with purpose and to build with people. And very importantly, Madam Speaker, because this constitutes 20% of the cost of electricity that all of us pay, there must be a clear and enforceable mandate for the reduction and elimination of illegal connections substantially greater responsibility for before not being the case. Penalties for such occurrences in wealthy communities, because many people believe that theft only occurs in poor communities. I think we need to increase the penalties where people steal electricity in these wealthy communities and provide a mechanism for the poorer communities to get attached to the grid. Lawfully. The function of dispatch, which is that body that determines which generation you put on the grid, which is now done by the JPS, must be changed to a fully transparent system set up by the Office of Utilities Regulation. The separation of JPS accounts and operational functions, which again were mandated before, they must implemented without further delay. Generation, transmission, and distribution must be clearly, and we have a whole raft of consumer protection standards which must be comprehensively updated. Among them is the need to ensure that there are penalties that are associated for breaches of these standards. There are so many times when, because of fluctuation in voltages, your equipment at home, your appliances get damages. And when you turn to the JPS for compensation, they say, did you read the fine print of your contract? We have to change that to give consumers better protection. We have to also, Madam Speaker, move to the completion of the transition to LED street lighting. It must be mandated that the provision of the 2016 provisions must be enforced without further delay. We have quite a few recommendations for the new license. And you'll watch my thing tomorrow, very well. Because I have to say something about Petrojam, and finally, in the additional 10 minutes that I have, to say something about oil and gas exploration, because the minister has been talking of a storm about oil and gas exploration, not giving credit, and also not being forceful in trying to find oil and gas. So, Madam Speaker, Petrojam has been asked to carry water in a basket. In its current condition, the company will continue to record substantial losses year over year. This year, it was revealed in the Standing Finance Committee.
Member Paulwell, I note you only have 1 minute left. You know you are not the opener of the debate. So,
he said both.
He said both. He said both.
No, he didn't. And it is not both. The opener of the debate is the minister who opens the debate. Anyways, Ms. Brandon, could you please give him...
We all heard it, except the speaker.
Welcome back.
He's an honorable man.
No, so, but, Madam Speaker, I did in my reference would suggest that both persons who speak today would get the 10 minutes. But I do take your point that there is only one opener and closer of the debate. With that said, because we only, though we had started the discussion with the leader of opposition business, we only finalized after I spoke to you today. I would ask only on this occasion, in his position as just getting the time frame.
House Leader, the member spent time during his debate to argue about following the standing orders. And as the leader of opposition business, he is very clear that the opener and closer of the debate is the minister. From the government side who is assigned the duty of opening the debate. I am very clear as to who the opener of the debate is. And in respect of my request, and you may pull Hansard, I ask for time to be given to the opener and closer of the debate, separate and apart from 5 minutes being granted to the opposition spokesperson. I was very clear on what I asked for in the motion. Thank you very much, House Leader. The member has 1 minute to conclude.
Oh my God.
No. Madam Speaker, I rise to protest that ruling very strongly. This Parliament though you are the chair, the arena is right here. And if the leader of government business and opposition business agree on a certain process, that is how it should go. You should not join the arena, Madam Speaker. I still am hoping that my colleague who and I entered into this agreement.
Don't give up. If I tap it in, it's no going further. We'll give you one.
Okay, but if you knew from the very beginning that you weren't going to get it, you would have done it differently. Yes, it's on the premise that you
He said,
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, in the spirit of the start of the debates and based on
and House Leader, I would also want you to incorporate, based on the discussion, or exactly what was agreed by the Speaker.
Yeah, so Madam Speaker, as I indicated, when we had discussed the matter prior to which you rightfully indicated as according to Hansard, the discussion was in relation to the opener and closer of the debate. However, in my discussions with Member Paulwell, because we had not signed off on the time frame until we got to the House and seen that he would have prepared prior to, I thought it was only fitting to communicate that he would get some additional time. So I do understand the confusion. What I say is, in the circumstances, we allow the member an additional 5 minutes, along with the 5 minutes that he got to complete his presentation.
Ms. Brandon, please add 5 minutes to the time on the clock. Leader of Opposition Business, you have 6 minutes to complete.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and to colleagues. And I remind you to watch the live tomorrow and get the full chapter and verse. I was saying, Madam Speaker, that the government has given Petrojam basket to carry water. And I want to say to the minister, as he revealed recently, that there is this price cap on the pricing mechanism at Petrojam, that we have to be very careful, because Petrojam has lost $4 million in the year 2020, $4 billion in the year ending 2025, another $4 billion in the year ending March 2026, and they're likely to lose a lot more. And rather than tampering with the pricing mechanism, I think you can provide consumers with some benefits, because the government is making a windfall in the taxes now being generated by fuels. So I want to say that, and I want to remind the government, there is something called a hedge tax, that was established to provide money to buy insurance, and also to do the reforms that are necessary to transition from the heavy usage of heavy fuel oil and diesel. Nothing has happened since 2016. But Madam Speaker, I'm going to go to the oil and gas section because I think Jamaicans are very confused about the situation as it obtains to the search for oil. My conviction regarding the hydrocarbon potential of Jamaica's territorial waters was formed in a single defining meeting when I sat with the late Dr. Raymond Wright and spent several hours reviewing 3 decades of PCJ's data. I became firmly convinced that Jamaica sits atop a significant hydrocarbon system. It is true that wells had previously been drilled without yielding commercial quantities. But in 10 of those wells, we had oil shows. And what we mean by that is that we did find oil, but not in commercial quantities. So there's no question that the data points to oil being around in Jamaica, that there's evidence to suggest that there is oil. With the advances in deep sea exploration technology that have occurred in recent decades, I believe then and believe now that the search must continue. However, the government of Jamaica at the time could not fund the work that was necessary, especially because we were constrained by the IMF agreement. I therefore did at the time what was responsible. I took Jamaica's geological data, our technical case, and our ambition on a roadshow from Dallas to Dublin, seeking credible international partners. After all that effort, a single serious player emerged, Tullow Oil, which has since become United Oil and Gas. So that effort, you have heard about United Oil and Gas, that license was signed by me. My time. A 5-year agreement was signed in 2015. The commitment was explicit. The completion of 3D seismic data collection, followed by drilling no later than 2020. That's in the agreement that they were supposed to have drilled for oil by 2020. And even as we signed the agreement, then we were busy negotiating with another significant player, Repsol. All of that fell through after 2016. So I'm very disappointed, Madam Speaker. In place of results, this country has been so and tantalizing revelations by press releases and conferences, all geared to excite and to PR
agency. I'm not sure why that decision was made, because those bodies, and there are many others, are significant, but that is the effect of the way in which approving entity has been defined and public body has been defined. When you look at those two definitions in tandem, the list of things that an approving entity is responsible for, which is in the definition there, said it includes functions related to a number of things: physical planning, roads, highways, etc. I raise the question because the word including is used and before the list of functions is set out. I wanted to know whether this would include other things that are not in this list, such as permits and licenses that may be needed by the designated strategic investment projects, which are the private sector projects, such as licenses to operate a casino or gaming facility, hotel or resort licenses, wharfage licenses, sufferance wharf licenses to establish private ports, petroleum facilities or energy facilities, and so on. These things, I'm not sure whether or not it's intended that the definition of approving entity would extend to those types of regulated functions, because the language used in the definition says that the list that's provided there is not a exhaustive list. It is just a list of things that happen to be included. And I think that's very important and needs to be clarified. In the definition of goods in section 2, clause 2 of the bill, it speaks to goods means things of every kind and description, whether tangible or intangible. That's a very peculiar definition, Madam Speaker. Intangibles are the antithesis of goods. And to say that goods extends to intangibles is very peculiar, and I think that needs to be reconsidered. I note that in section 4, there are lots of references to projects. And again, because the bill isn't consistent in its language, it isn't clear to me whether the projects referred to in section 4, which are the projects that the authority is responsible for dealing with, are limited to approved reconstruction and resilience projects, which are so defined in section 17, or can NARA pursue other projects that are not on the Cabinet's official list of projects? I think if there was consistency in the language, it would be clear whether NARA is limited to these approved projects that are on the section 17 Cabinet list, Cabinet approved list, and the private sector projects which are designated under another provision, or whether other projects may also be pursued by NARA. I think that needs to be made clear. Madam Speaker, in the subsection